Today on the IERLab Podcast, we're exploring the world of Wang Hong, Chinese online influencers, or as we've learned, that there is not just the word Chinese online influencers, there's other words for it. And what happens when they build careers abroad while staying deeply connected to the homeland social media? We'll look at how Chinese Wang Hong in Japan navigate identity, nationalism, and economic pressure, turning social media into a space of negotiation, creativity, and compromise. I'm your host, Walter Lee, and I'm joined today by Yan Du, who wrote the piece on Homeland, social media as a field of negotiation, creative strategies of China's Wang Hong in Japan. Hello, Yan. It's lovely to meet you.
Hi, Walter. Thank you so much for having me here.
Excellent. Thank you for being here. Now, we're going to get straight into our questions today, as we do, because there's so much to talk about. So, how do Chinese Wang Hong in Japan experience and manage the emotional and moral tensions that arise from presenting diasporic identity within a nationalist-oriented homeland media environment?
Okay, that's a quite important question. Before answering the question, I have to explain why influencers in Japan have to deal with the emotional tensions as a premise. Because the relationship between China and Japan has been tense for such a long time, and anything related to Japan could be a sensitive topic. It can easily trigger anti-Japanese sentiment or nationalism. Actually, just having a Japan IT address makes people judge you more strictly than those with other IP addresses. Since your IP location is displayed on your profile and under every comment you post, and other users know exactly where you are based. So Chinese influencers in Japan have to be very careful about their topics and how they present them. And my research shows that managing this tension requires a lot of emotional labor. For example, they carefully adjust their identity based on who is watching. And it really depends on where their followers are located. I found that influencers actually analyze their data to understand their audience. If most followers are from China, they choose to downplay the Chinese in Japan label.
Hmm.
Instead of acting like local residents, they act more like outsiders. For example, when they talk about Japan, they use very specific language. They say we Chinese versus them Japanese,
Hmm.
and they helps close the distance and blurs the differences between them and the users back home.
Hmm.
And many even employ a defensive strategy by like placing a Chinese flag icon or their hometown in China in their profile. And this is a direct way to tell the audience, even though I am overseas, my heart is still with China. However, if the followers are mostly Chinese living in Japan, they will do the opposite. In that case, they actually emphasize that they are Chinese in Japan. They do this because they know they won't face any moral criticism from the group.
Are there a large Japanese population within, sorry, Chinese
Mhm.
population within Japan?
If we talk about the population, maybe there is a, I think it's over 1 million
Oh, wow.
Chinese, yeah, living in Japan. But if you are talking about the users, I think uh, at least like
More than 1 million anyway.
yeah, not more than 1 million, but
Yeah.
maybe 100,000, I think.
Okay. That's quite interesting because you brought up the tensions between Japan and China. It is very similar to how Korea and China also conduct social media interaction as well. Obviously, Japan has had not the best past when it came to, let's say, World War II, and there was a lot of
Mm.
suppression of countries through Japan. So Korea also has to be very careful, or Korea is still in some sort of kind of tension between Japan, even though we are trying to fix things. There is also, certain things that Koreans will do or say that will make sure that they uh, appeal to the Korean audience rather than the Japanese audience. But what specific content or self-presentation and digital making strategies do Chinese Wanghong in Japan use to build visibility and income on Homeland social media platforms?
Okay, increasing visibility and profitability are the most important goals as a Wang Hong. Besides the method of identity performance I just mentioned, which can help them avoid attacks from nationalist sentiments and ensure the normal operation of their accounts. And there's another very interesting media practice, which is outdoor live streaming. The reason outdoor live streaming is so attractive is due to several important characteristics. One is that it always takes place in locations outside the scope of most platform users' daily experience. So it is very fresh to them, and it has a strong sense of presence and making you feel like you're actually there, especially since many influencers adopt a first-person perspectives for live streaming. So this kind of live streaming easily gains traffic because many people are curious about how people live abroad, and
Hmm.
especially during the pandemic when we cannot travel overseas. And what's more, Japan is emotionally complex for China, um, because of the um, diplomatic and historical reasons, and our relationship is poor. However, Japan is still a developed country, and some of its technological and cultural products have a very good reputation in the world, which makes it easier to arouse everyone's curiosity. So one thing Wang Hong in Japan achieved here is that they directly shows you the real-time scenery of Japan without editing through live streaming and chat with you online. So it is easy for the audience to establish a trust relationship with the Wang Hong, because you can see with your own eyes that they are living there and through the live streams, and they can walk through Japan's street and national scenery, the natural scenery together with the Wang Hong.
Hmm.
And it is equivalent to establishing a place related to Japan on Chinese media. So, from the perspective of media geography, we call this digital placemaking. It
Hmm.
actually illustrates that media can influence people's perceptions of a place or people's feelings towards a place. If you do this repeatedly, this influence will depend. So when you frequently watch this kind of Japan-related live streaming, you will naturally develop a positive emotions towards this place, such as familiarity, longing, yearning. Actually, this is quite similar to developing a strong attachment to Japan after watching many Japanese anime or Japanese
Hmm.
dramas. And one way for Wang Hong to profit is from tips from the followers during the live streaming. And the other is that while live streaming the city scenery, they often intersperse introductions of the Japanese products they're selling. So the users who develop positive emotions towards the Japanese lifestyle and products through their live streams will buy the products Wang Hong are selling. So
Mm,
this is a primary way of making a profit. Of
mm,
course, this kind of live streaming faces attacks from some like anti-Japanese comments.
mm,
But the interesting thing is that the comments do not only have negative effects. Sometimes they actually help increase the hit of the live stream room and attract more people interested in Japan. So
oh.
for the Chinese Wanhong here in Japan, it's not necessarily a completely bad thing.
Right. So, how does dependence on Homeland social media platforms shape the economic power platform, vulnerability, and degrees of agency available to China's Wang Hong operating from Japan?
Okay, so basically, Wang Hong have to constantly negotiate between state ideology, platform rules, advertisers' goals, and user expectations. I must say that their autonomy has been uh, severely restricted. And this dependence on Homeland's social media means they have to fight for their own agency and economic power in
Mm,
the cracks between these competing forces. Um, as the Homeland platform are deeply influenced by official ideology, Wang Hong must be careful with the sensitive topics of Sino-Japanese relations. They try their best to avoid politics and must avoid overpraising Japan. So on the other hand, most of their clients are companies uh, trading Japanese goods or even government agencies. Their goal is very clear, and just to sell Japanese products to Chinese consumers or promote tourism. So to support this goal, Wang Hong actually have to actively portray Japan or its products in a positive light. So at the same time, they must consider user expectations. As I mentioned earlier, the domestic users have mixed feelings about Japan. So they hold nationalist hostility, but also desire the quality of the life here. Um, so when presenting Japan, one will have to constantly test the limits of what users can accept. They try to show the good side of Japan as much as possible without triggering mass nationalist anger.
mm,
This is because if the backlash is too loud, their accounts are very likely to be reported or banned. And
mm.
many of my interviewees told me stories about their content being taken down or
Yeah.
accounts being blocked. So this is not a rare thing among Wanhong in Japan. They are quite cautious when creating content, and they cannot simply create based on their own interests. They need to consider all possible consequences, especially for those who rely on this income to survive.
There are a lot of similarities, like I mentioned before, between South Korea and Japan when it comes to
Mhm.
content within Japan. And I think that if it's the same with Japanese living, I don't know what it's like if you've studied a little bit what Japanese have the guidelines in China, but obviously if Japanese come into Korea, they also have to follow, not, they don't have to follow, but it's
Mhm.
best if they follow strict guidelines on what to say, what not to say.
Yeah.
Even when you're talking about idols,
Mhm.
who are Japanese. There are so many Japanese K-pop idols these days. They have to be very careful of what they put out into the world because there's a lot of backlash if it is even perceived the wrong way in just a small amount. But I could talk about this actually all
Mhm.
day. I love Japan. I love China.
Mhm.
But we're coming down to our last question, which is how are particular Japanese places repeatedly mediated by Chinese Wang Hong? And how do these representations transform locations into meaningful, monetizable, and political sensitive places for domestic Chinese audiences?
Okay. The way one home media places is actually quite simple. It is about the repetition. The repetitive display is essentially the process of giving meaning. So, as I mentioned earlier, media geography suggests that one difference between space and place lies in the frequency of experience. So when you repeatedly experience a space, it becomes a meaningful place to you. So the interesting thing about Wang Hong is that they are from different cities in Japan, and to save costs, the social landscapes they present or their live streaming locations are often the neighborhoods near where they are, where they live, or famous tourist spots in that city. So, for example, international students show their schools and libraries, and all the office workers show beautiful office buildings and the sophisticated life of the middle class.
Hmm.
So actually, many people who consume this content are already fans of Japanese cultural products, such as anime and TV drama, movies, and games. So they have actually accumulated a lot of attachment to Japan through this artistic works. So we can call this a sense of place, even though it comes from a secondary experience from media. So this feeling is easily reawakened when they consume Wang Hong's content, because there are many similarities. For example, many Wang Hong works are also related to anime or like pilgrimages to anime locations. So the content presented by Wang Hong easily becomes a meaningful place for the user because of this similar sense of place. But a complexity lies in the fact that this Japan-related place grows on the Homeland social media that represents Chinese society. So geopolitical friction is also reflected in this media world. And this creates a situation where the place is sensitive and needs to be de- depoliticized to be accepted.
Very, very interesting conclusion to that. I hope that one day that we can get you on again and talk more about this because I always have more questions for these sorts of topics. And Jan, is there any
Mhm.
projects or any future studies or current works that you're currently working on that you'd like to promote while you're here?
Actually, I think in the future, I will continue to research the media usage of Chinese people in Japan. Though I maybe not necessarily focus only on Chinese Wang Hong,
Hmm.
I plan to analyze their usage behaviors in more detail. For example, I want to study how their interaction with social media platform algorithm influences their perception of their home country and their host country.
Hmm.
And basically, my goal is to try to combine migration studies with various subfields of media studies to explore these intersections in the future.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, excellent. Well, again, thank you for everyone for listening to today's episode of IER Lab Podcast. Once again, I'd like to thank our guest today, Yan Du.
Thank you so much.
And until next time, this has been Walter Lee. You may click on your next adventure now.